Welcome back. You're watching World Insight. I'm Tian Wei. We now turn to the volatile cryptocurrency market. China has cracked down on the crypto trade and services in a bid to ward off financial risks. Chinese regulators slammed the brakes on Bitcoin mining and trading-related activities, according to a statement from a meeting of the Financial Stability and Development Committee under the China's State Council. The statement came days after 3 Chinese industrial associations threw cold water on virtual currency trading. The crackdown is widely seen as an escalation of China's efforts to tame virtual currency speculation. In recent weeks, Bitcoin prices have been on a wild swing after Elon Musk tweeted that Tesla will no longer take Bitcoin payments. On Sunday, Bitcoin fell to nearly 50% from the year's high. So what's next for cryptocurrencies around the world? Let's ask our panelists. So what now for virtual currencies? For answers, we are going to have a panel of experts to answer the question. For now, we have already linked to Anthony Chan, former JP Morgan Chase chief economist. Anthony, good to see you. As investor coming from traditional investment banks,
good to see
how
you.
Do you see cryptocurrencies' latest drama?
Well, I think that what we see here is that Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies as an asset class depend heavily on expectations of the investors. And those expectations, of course, are formulated by new information. And the new information is that somehow the second largest economy in the world is now going to somewhat discourage Bitcoin mining, where more than 70% of Bitcoin mining takes place. And so that is a negative short-term hit to the market of Bitcoin, and that's why you saw such a big decline from the previous highs. I think that long-term, Bitcoin is a viable asset class, so I'm confident that prices will continue to move higher over the next several years. But over the near term, until these issues are resolved, there's going to be a lot more volatility in the Bitcoin and the crypto market.
We have seen already the volatility with the huge slide down. We have seen rebound somewhat. Anthony, is this going to be a blip, or are we going to see huge waves like this for days to come and probably months to come?
I think we're going to continue I think you're going to continue to see waves until some of that uncertainty is gone. But remember that as in any asset class, as the market capitalization goes up, historically, we have seen that volatility goes down. The only difference is that many of the asset classes that we look at are based extremely and sensitive to fundamentals of the cash flow of those products. And of course, we all know that Bitcoin per se does not have a cash flow, just like gold. So it depends more heavily on expectations.
Yeah. Ray Dalio, of course, a hedge fund, trying to suggest that the function of Bitcoin recently. He talked about Bitcoin would be a good escape from the latest inflation and also the volatility as a result of the currency. So how do you see that? As long as the inflation risks and the printing of money going on, cryptocurrency, will it still be an option?
Well, I think that any asset class that is tied to inflation will do well, whether that be real estate, whether that be Bitcoin. So right now, the inflation trends are a good positive tailwind to Bitcoin, as it is to housing prices in the United States too. So I see that the inflation trends at the moment are a positive force for Bitcoin. But the big question is the central bank in the United States correct in saying that we're going to have inflation over the near term, maybe even the intermediate term, but that such inflation pressures will be transitory. If it turns out to be transitory, then you can't argue that the inflation trends will be a permanent positive factor for Bitcoin, even though it is definitely a positive factor over the near and even intermediate term.
Let's have the opinion from another. In London, Patrick McQuiry, an advisor at Lemnis Gap, who is coming to us via Skype. Good to see you. A long time no see, Mr. McCormack. Usually when there's nothing wrong with Bitcoins or cryptocurrency, we wouldn't knock on your door. Now we do. So there must be a lot of things going on. Tell me about your sense and assessment.
My assessment for Bitcoin.
Cryptocurrencies also, generally speaking.
Oh, cryptocurrency. So I think there's two parts to this. So as the previous panelist has said, Bitcoin's a hedge against political risk and monetary risk. 25% of all USD that's ever existed has been printed in the past year. And we're probably going to see some inflation pressure over the next coming years for most countries in the West, at least anyway. So Bitcoin is sort of winning that narrative there as this digital gold that can hold billions of dollars and be transferred for 20 cents, and you have self-custody of it. There's a lot of political risk right now around that. But the other aspect of it is there's this other edge case being, this is mostly Ethereum, but it's sort of this decentralized finance. And the idea that you can have a global, transparent financial system where you could trade assets or have, collateralized loans, and there's no intermediary. And that sort of area of cryptocurrencies allow you to have productive assets. So I can lock up, dollars and crypto, and I earn a yield on that by facilitating trading on the network. So now we're actually starting to see these productive assets, and that might actually make it more mainstream for, the existing financial system who like productive assets.
Bitcoin, stablecoin, Dogecoin, there are a lot of different varieties that are coming out as we speak. Now, at a time of volatility and uncertainty, the investors, what they are thinking is taking their chances out of these, different waves as we speak. So how do you see these possibilities of chances as we speak? Mr. McCormack, once again.
Of changes or giving chances? Well, I guess, it depends how you're looking at this. If you're looking at this from an investor perspective, in the short term, cryptocurrencies are always very volatile, as we've seen it crash over 50% in the week. But if you consider it on a year horizon, it's currently up, Bitcoin's up 3x and Ethereum's currently up 20x. So it's just like a small blip in the current bull run. If you look at it from a technical perspective as a software developer, it's just programmable money, and you can just go and get started and just develop really cool financial applications. So it's just going to keep going as it always has. It's still very much a bull market.
Right. We're going to talk to all of you a little bit later, but now let me also bring in through phone Qu Qiang. He's joining us from Beijing, the Assistant Director of the International Monetary Institute at Renmin University of China. Professor Qu, good to hear your voice. I want to know about your assessment of why China over the weekend, last weekend, trying to make sure people understand China's attitude toward cryptocurrency trading.
This is funny. I've been participating in lots of investigation of the cryptocurrency crime because recently, as you probably know, when we have witnessed the surge of many, crypto coins, and the certain relevant crime has been happening all over China. We have been seeing the telephone scamming and the Ponzi scheme and everything with the banner or under the banner of the crypto coins in getting involved with the Bitcoin or so-called Bitcoin or Dogecoin or something. And this caused a lot of losses in people. And not only the pure crime, but also the speculations over the crypto coins is recently going crazy among, the underground economy in China. We've been seeing a lot of potential investors or so-called investors are losing their money because there's a surge or the roller coaster turbulence happened in the international market. Many people's gain has been wiped out. So I think the government really want to raise the awareness of people and investors.
That certainly is having a huge impact on the international trading of the cryptocurrency, particularly the Bitcoin. Mr. Xu, do you think that the Chinese side have expected that?
Oh, yes. We have been seeing that. Because probably you will see, judging from the IP address of the Bitcoin trading, we'll find that there is a very large amount of the trading IP address coming from China. They're traveling back and forth between China and other countries. So I'm thinking this banning orders coming out definitely will impact on the international trading market. So I think this investigation and law enforcement has really seen some effect.
But think about China's latest announcement in correlation with some of the latest remarks made by people such as Elon Musk talking down on Bitcoin, which is an important cryptocurrency. So how do you see, the correlation, it seems, of some of the advocates and also governments?
Well, this is actually a little bit, complicated since I'm a long-term researcher on the Bitcoin. Bitcoin do have lots of real values, but that's not good value because it's anchored to the ground economy, which is, substantially large in the whole world. But Bitcoin is very hard to be manipulated financially because it's very, very high value recently and also been controlled by different holders all over the world. But for the tycoon like Elon Musk, they want to control one of the crypto coins, which cannot be interfered by the government, but only in their own manipulation. So I think the smaller value coins and with the rather concentrated holding positions, like the Dogecoin or Shiba coin, could be a better choice rather than the Bitcoin, harder to manipulate. So I think Elon Musk want to create something of his own rather than just to be a buy watcher of the Bitcoin.
Interesting. I want to turn back to our two other panelists. Mr. Mike McCormack, I know that you were smiling when you listened to the remarks of Mr. Chu commenting on Elon Musk's strategy. Tell me more about your assessment of what's the mentality behind all of this?
For Elon Musk. Elon had a tweet recently that sort of described his viewpoint on this. He sort of said there's a war going on between crypto and fiat, and he's a supporter of crypto. And that's mostly around the monetary policy. He doesn't want, if you're a large institution, you have several currencies, your value stored in this currency, and you want to remove, any risk around that.
Yeah.
And then, if the dollar's being printed, then, you need another asset that can store your value. For the Dogecoin, I just laugh at that because the Dogecoin is ridiculous. It was invented in 2013 as a joke, and it just never went away, and even the inventor really hates it. But it's sort of like a fun way, in the sense that it's a fun way to get people in the cryptocurrencies and to start, dabbling and understanding what you're doing.
Yeah.
So for a lot of these Dogecoin investors, they're retail users on Robinhood who are depositing $100. They may make 1,000, they may lose everything. It's very risky. But then they've got exposure to it, and then they move into the real crypto world. So I think the Doge coins are really funny. But yeah, it's I can see why the central bank in China are sort of warning against it because it's highly speculative and doesn't, go towards financial stability, which is their ultimate goal.
We got an interesting picture going on, right? I mean, if you look at the central banks, they are thinking about their own digital currencies. For example, China has its digital RMB. The U.S., they also having similar versions developed. But then the industry and also the investors are looking at cryptocurrencies as a good tool for them to make a buck, or to say the least. And you also see, the general public, the general investors, a huge amount of them, being puzzled as to where to go from now to, the fate of the cryptocurrencies. So I want to ask you about that, Anthony. How do you see these different players, their roles, their missions, their interests, now all mixed up right now?
Well, there is a bit of a confusion in the market because, as you probably know, we have over 7,000 different crypto coins. And so for the average person to sit down and decide which of the 7,000 are the ones that have the most profit potential is a bit of a challenge. That's one of the reasons why many of the investors focus on the biggest ones, Bitcoin, of course, Dogecoin, Ethereum. and others, the top ones, that's where they focus. But right now, the profit history of many of these crypto coins has been very impressive. And so when you look back at what has happened over the last 2 or 3 years, or even the last 12 months, it is very difficult to argue that investing in crypto is not a good investment, because it has actually done well, despite the 50% or 40% decline that we've seen recently. The long-term track record of cryptocurrency is very impressive.
Mr. Chu, are you still on the phone with us?
Yes, of course.
Your comments.
Yeah, my comment is that I think the private coinage, no matter how well it goes, it will be the enemy of all governments. Because you have to understand the essence of the modern economy, and our currency issuance is based on the debt. Well, the only one who can take a very, very long-term debt and to use this credit to issue currencies to support the liquidity of the whole society will be the sovereign nations. So any private temptation to issue their own private money is like a Libra of the Facebook, or like the doggy would be controlled by the Elon Musk. Would be a nice try, but in the long run, it was going to be a competition between them and the sovereign nation and the government. Since right now, all over the world, we're depending on the government to become the credit guarantee.
Yeah.
So I think probably they're going to fail.
Okay. Patrick, you got 40 seconds.
I don't think there's any competition. I don't like cryptocurrency is a bad word. It's a crypto asset. It holds value, and you can transfer value globally across the world. It's a bit like gold. Gold's been around for 2,000 years. It's $10 trillion asset class, and no one says that gold's a bad thing for the world. These central bank digital currencies are going to play the role of just cash that currently exists in society. And it's going to help with traceability and surveillance and make sure you crack down on fraud that's happening in your economy. There are two different roles.
Well, very diverse opinions, of course. We want to thank the three of you, Patrick McQuiry, Anthony Chan, and Chu Chang, for joining us. Interesting discussion. Things are going to continue, and the drama will be as well.